Hi, my name's Chris Caesar. I'm a landscape photographer based out of my gallery here in York. Welcome to this, the third episode of a short series called Four Seasons in Print, during which I look at 5 images from each of the 4 seasons in each episode, and then chat about the image itself, the composition, maybe the lighting on the day, maybe some of the things, why the image means something to me, and then have a little look at the paper that I've used in order to get these images down on print. So we're going to kick off today. This episode is called Autumn. If you check out the YouTube channel, you'll see that we've already done Spring and Summer. So there's one more episode to come in this series, which will be Winter. And all of the prints that you see are available as special offers. I've managed, in my infinite wisdom, because I'm a clever guy, to use a non-standard size for these prints. So all my laser cut mounts are too big or too small for these. So I'm offering them to you because I'm very kind, as a special offer run of signed prints. So you can find them under special offers on the website. I will be adding the prints as we go along. So all of these ones are now on. So you've currently got 15 images on there. Have a look, and if you want to get a bargain, then place an order. So let's kick off today with this. This is the first image. Autumn is a time of year when lots of things happen. One of the things, obviously, is that we get lots of autumn colour. This is a picture called Kaleidoscope at Thirlmere in the Lake District. So Thirlmere is a reservoir. I believe it feeds most of Manchester. Thirlmere is in between Keswick and Grasmere. And normally when you go over the rise at the top, as you come out of Keswick and start dropping down to Grasmere, which is where you pass this reservoir, you'll see that it's quite choppy. There's a wind that comes up the lake, streaming from Grasmere up towards Keswick. And it's normally looks a bit chilly and a bit inhospitable. But on this day, I was surprised to find that it was flat calm and there was some autumn colour. So this gave me a chance to park up, get down to the lakeside and start playing with lenses in an attempt to zoom in to control the elements that were in the frame. So for example, this area here, this little sort of diamond shape of colour and pattern, I decided this tree might be important to anchor the image on this side of the picture as well. Then it was a case of just getting the top and bottom, deciding whether to go for a 50-50 split or something just that made it look nice. The finished result's full of colour. There's lots of lights in it. The sun's catching these trees and there's a dominant sort of yellow feel to the picture. But there are some areas here as well of contrast, and we've got sort of darker colours down in the water. So from a point of view of printing, I just wanted to give this image as much help as I could with regard to getting some kind of contrast into the finished result. So for that reason, I've gone with the Canson Infinity Barita Prestige, which is a 340 gram quite white paper. So because it's quite white, it lets me sort of give hints of brightness easier. But also it's got a really, really high Dmax. It's got lots of capacity to produce blacks. So all the help I can get with trying to create these areas of contrast in the picture, this paper will give me lots of benefits with regard to that. So the finished result is full of colour, it's punchy, it's dramatic, and it will add a splash of colour to anybody's wall. So that's the first picture today, Kaleidoscope at Thirlmere. Okay, so this is the second image that I've gone for today. This image is called Tipping the Summit at Buttermere. We made this on a video trip that we put together. I wanted to make a video showing the kind of things we got up to on a workshop. And you can see some of that video. We had to cut it for various reasons. But there's something there on the YouTube channel if you want to see the kind of things that we get up to on a workshop. This picture was made on a very, very calm morning in the autumn. And it's got a totally different feel to the last image that we looked at. This image, it's got an overpowering sense of tranquility, a serenity that you can only get when you've maybe got, I don't know, you stood above a valley that's full of ethereal mist, or in this case, stood by a lake that's flat calm. One of the things that really, really helps promote this feeling of sort of, I don't know, isolation and loneliness and calmness is this little cloud. So as the sun starts to come up, the air gets warmer, it starts to do its thing, vapour starts to be produced. It's starting here on the tip of this hill, there's a slight breeze and it's just blowing it across. And it's reflecting down in the water. There's another one here, look, forming, just going out of the picture. So it's quite unique. You can go to a location many times, and the reason that I think we should keep going back to locations is we keep getting different conditions, different field. You can go on another day. I mean, recently I posted an image on my Instagram channel from this area, and it's a really fiery sunrise with a tree sticking out of the water. It's got a totally different feeling to this one. This is all about mood, and it's all about tranquility. For that reason, I decided to use the matte paper from Canson Infinity that I use quite a lot, called Rag Photographique 310. Rag Photographique is slightly warmer than the last paper we looked at, the Barita Prestige. It's still quite white, but it's just got a slight warmth to it, which helps when you're looking at sort of natural colours, things like greens and reds and yellows. So it's helping this image here by just letting me get down those warm tones a little bit easier than maybe on a brighter white paper. The other thing about this paper that's really special is it's incredibly smooth. The overall feeling of this image is of calmness, tranquility. The smooth paper works really well at getting that message across to the viewer. So it was, when we were making it, this was the paper I had in mind. Quite a lot of images will look good on different papers, but if you want to convey a mood to go with your photography, sometimes we have a particular paper that will let us do that better than the others. And for this picture, I've decided that the ultra smooth matte Rag Photographique 310 is the one for me. So that's the second image in the autumn episode. Okay, so this is the third image in the series of autumnal pictures. This is a picture that I made whilst doing a scouting trip up at Glen Lyon in Scotland. Managed to find this old Roman bridge, and it was quite an interesting experience because I had my wellies on and I was plodding around in the pools, taking great care not to fall over. And progress was slow until these two small children arrived, about 4 years old, and just ran with gay abandon through the waters and the stones, and then I managed to speed up a bit after that. But I got there in the end, and I made 2 or 3 pictures working on this kind of scene. And sometimes when we're making a picture like this, the hardest thing to work out is, what do we want to say with our picture? What story do we want to tell? How do we want to arrange the elements in this picture to create something that's going to have an emotional connection with the viewer? So I decided to go for kind of a central bridge, but I wanted to link various elements in this. I thought it was important to link this waterfall that kind of starts here but mainly comes through the arch to this water in the foreground. I wanted that to be a continuing theme. Also, I wanted to try and get the foreground of the picture back to the top of the picture where we've got all this autumn colour. So down in the bottom here, you'll see there's some hints here of warmth with some of the leaves that have submerged, and we've got these nice warm sort of mossy colours going on as we go through the picture. So there should be a nice journey that people can go on with this image. It should have a revealing nature, and a story should unfold as you go through it. Other than that, the colours are stunning. We've got lots of contrast in this. We've got all these dark shadow areas going on the sides of the rocks, in the foreground, in these dark areas, in between these trees too. But we've also got these lit areas where the sun's just catching these areas of detail, and also the light colour of the water. There are a couple of papers that I had in mind when I was shooting this shot, when I saw the sort of conditions before me and the light that was there on the day. But the paper that I ended up plumping for was the Barita Prestige again, because of the extensive range of the high Dmax that it's got. It really, really does help bring out the light and the shade in this image. The colours are handled beautifully. The level of detail is phenomenal. The result is a picture that literally jumps off the page. It really is striking, very, very dramatic, and perfect for this paper. So that's the third image today. Okay, so here's the fourth image of 5. This is an image called Mixed Light over Wastwater. Lake District. And this is the deepest of the lakes in the Lake District. And this is another matte print, but I've chosen a different paper for this. And the other one, with the smoothness of tranquility, that was printed on the smooth Rag Photographique 310. I'm going to tell you why I've used this paper in a second, but imagine, whereas the other picture that you saw had this real calm feeling to it, this one's a bit more dramatic. It's a long exposure. You can see there's movement in the sky. Two reasons I like long exposures. One, it gives a sense of movement, so you get this effect going on. But secondly, it has the effect of calming down foregrounds and letting details stand out. So this would have been a slightly choppy lake. You can see there are no reflections, so it wasn't a calm lake. It wasn't still. It's rendered flat because the long exposure does that to water. So if you imagine, I don't know, if a water's got a ripple on it, you shoot it for 3 minutes, it will end up just rendering right where the average was, if that makes sense. So we've basically created this flat area in the water, which is letting these rocks stand out. So we've got drama in the foreground as well. So we've got a little journey where we go on through these rocks, and if you look, these are made, presumably, of the same stuff that these are made of, and they're the similar shapes. So it's almost like there's a little echo. We've got little mountains, and we've got bigger mountains. So we've got this stillness that we had in the other image, but we've got drama. And when I stood there, the feeling wasn't the same as on the Buttermere picture. The feeling here was quite windy, and it was quite, I felt exposed, and it was quite dramatic. So this one, maybe I treat differently to the other one. It would look great on Rag Photographique, don't get me wrong, and it would probably look great on all the shiny papers too. But for this one, I wanted to introduce something that I've not introduced yet in any of these videos. For this one, I've used a paper called Edition Etching Rag. An Edition Etching Rag is a similar paper to the Rag Photographique 310. It's very smooth, but there's a slight texture to it. So this time, in these areas, rather than leaving you with a feeling of flatness that creates that feeling of isolation, I've put a slight texture into these areas and these areas that just breaks that up a little bit. So it just creates a subtly different look, ever so subtle. But it's a paper that I like to use when I have this sort of situation. Sometimes you might shoot monochrome on a stormy day. You might have a tree sticking out of the water, a brightish sky. And those pictures are full of drama, but it's sometimes helpful to have a little bit of texture in the sky. It just looks nicer. It's hard to explain. So this one has not got the ultra smooth finish of the 310 Rag Photographique. It's got ever such a slight texture. And like I say, it can just help with flat areas to have that little bit of texture in there. So that's why I chose Edition Etching Rag for this picture. I'm not sure I explained it very well, but it's also great for, images with things like rocks and leaves, trees, anything with small details. The slight texture on this surface really does help kind of bring those details out. So it's a paper that I like and I use now and again. So that's the fourth one today. This is the fifth and final image today. This concludes our autumn episode. And this picture goes back a long time. This is from the early days when I was out and about, and one of my first trips over to the Yorkshire Dales. I knew about this waterfall. I'd seen it before in the days before cameras. This is a waterfall called Hardraw Force in the Yorkshire Dales. And the interesting thing, I'll have to tell you this because you're not going to guess. This is England's longest, highest, unbroken waterfall standing at 100 feet. In this picture, it doesn't look 100 feet. The reason it doesn't look 100 feet is because of the lens that I used. I had a choice on this day. I either showed you the waterfall, which would have been sort of starting here and finishing here, and it would have just been a waterfall, but it would have looked taller. Or I tried to create an image that had a story, that took you through the scene, let you know what was there. For that, I needed a wide angle lens, and the wide angle lens is very good at pushing the background further away, so this becomes smaller, but it lets you get everything in. So this is a 6-foot bit of water that's the same height or length as the 100-foot one. And that's how wide angle lenses work. But the beauty with the wide angle, as I say, is that you can get more in and thus be quite creative and tell a story. So if you look, we've got this lovely flow with the water that takes you right through the picture. I mean, that's sort of given, coming in from the edge there. But also, as the eye comes across, we're picking up these leaves on this foreground rock here, the dark rock with the bright leaves on. And as we come through the picture, we finally get to the top where there's also trees full of those same leaves. So there's a connection between the foreground and the back. As far as the composition goes, apart from the sort of leading line and the story that I've just mentioned, there was a choice to be made as to how to break up the image, and I've decided to go for bands of thirds. So sometimes when we think about thirds, we might think, oh, this wants to be on a third, but it's not that kind of thirds in this one, it's bands. So if you look at the foreground, this third is all about these foreground rocks. And then you've got 1/3 where it's all about this background sort of rock face that the water's flowing down. And then the very top third is the sky and the trees. So we've got 3 bands of interest, which is never a bad thing. We've got a lovely flow to it, and we've got some story that links throughout the picture. So it's quite a clever composition in a way. Took some thinking out, took some changing lenses and moving about and whatever. You can see it's raining, the sun's coming in and out. This was very hard to control. It was in shadow, this was in light. I shot it just as the sun was going in, so that the light was just diffused a little bit. When the sun was out fully, this was very, very bright. So I've stood there a while, keep taking shots when the light was going in, coming out, going in, coming out, and hopefully that one of them would have been just right on an exposure point of view, and that's this one. So it's a nice picture. And when I came to decide how to print this, I decided to use a paper that I go to quite a lot. It's called Platine Fibre Rag, out of the Canson Infinity Fine Art range. And Platine Fibre Rag is absolutely exceptional at handling the widest range of tones and giving you as much detail as any paper I've ever seen. So all the details are crisp, but it handles mid-tones with ease. It handles shadows and lit areas very, very well. It's a classy paper. I've said before you could print your entire portfolio on this. If all you had was one paper, have this one. But there are lots of images that it's perfect for. This is one of them, and that's why I've decided to print on this. So that concludes this week's episode. And remember, all of these prints are available just as you see them here, signed. They're 16.6 inches by 10 inch, and they're going to be sent out to you as signed prints. You can only buy them now. They're going to be limited, and it's not something I do as standard, so they'll probably never be seen again in this format. So if you want to grab a bargain, do check out the website and look under special offers on the menu bar. Next episode will be winter. That should be aired a week from when this one is aired, which would be a Friday, all being well. And I'm just off to go and start looking at the pictures that I want to show you from winter. And then we'll see how we go on with that one. So until then, take care and thank you very much.